It's called Babba Wanna Bottle. As you can see, this really cool guy here is looking like a what? What's he looking like? A freaky baby, you know? And so what happens so many times, we look at this and you're like, this looks kind of ridiculous. It's silly. You know, he's calling it Baby Want a Bottle. Why? Because he looks like he maybe is looking for, like, I wish I had a bottle instead of the pacifier. So, what's that?
Wait, why'd you call it a Babba?
A grown man, and it's not normal. That is really interesting that you would say that he's a grown man, and it doesn't look normal. How many people in this room would say he's a grown man? That just doesn't look normal. There's something wrong with that. So, yeah, guess what? That's exactly what this is about. Okay, here we go. 1 Corinthians 13:11. It's a verse that we may be familiar with or not. Oh, now you're looking at the little baby with the mustache. That's not normal either, is it? That's not normal either. Hey, wait, here's a grown man that looks like a baby. That's not normal, but oh, there's a baby. It looks like a man. That's not normal. What is with this?
That's also because the mustache is on the pinky. So.
How do you know? How do you know that's not a real mustache?
You can see it.
That you can't tell. Oh, my goodness. Oh, just roll with the picture, will you? So, 1 Corinthians 13:11. We have a verse in the Bible that we're going to be using today, and it goes like this. When I was a child, matter of fact, when we're reading this, you guys can read after what I say. When I was a child, what's it say? I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. Wow, we're looking at this going, okay, so what's this verse have to do with anything? If we're looking at this, we have to understand that we're thinking that this guy, who should be grown up by now, he's acting like a child. But that's the thing is, when he was a child, you know, when you're kids, you speak like a kid. That's how kids speak. Kids speak, you know. I understood as a kid. Why? Because you're a kid. So that's how you're going to understand. I thought as a kid. I thought how kids think. You know, you think crazy things. You think stupid things. You're kids. I'm sorry. Did I just say kids think stupid things? No, I meant you spoke certain. No. But when you grow up, you put away childish things. How many people in this room would have to say that as a kid, you did something stupid, but now you realize now that's a really bad idea? You know, a lot of you are raising your hand. Can somebody give me an example of something? You're like, oh, yeah, I got one. When you were a kid, that you did something really stupid. As a kid, you did something really stupid. I don't know if I can choose all these hands at one time. I'm going to go with Logan. I'll go with you. When you were a kid, you did something really stupid. I might not know this. What?
Can it be from yesterday?
Can it just be from yesterday that you did something stupid? Okay, I don't know what happened yesterday. So yes, what happened yesterday as a stupid child?
So
that you grew up and know better now.
I do know better now. Yesterday when I went to the park.
Shh. Yesterday when you went to the park.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be funny to get inside the baby swing.
You thought you wanted to fit in one of those like rubber baby swings with the. Okay, go ahead.
So
does everybody know the kind of swing he's talking about? Okay.
So I got my legs through, it was up here.
Okay.
But getting out of it was so hard and so painful.
Is that what was taking you so long getting home last night? So as a child, you thought as a child, you acted as a child. Now you grew up after being stuck in that seat. In 24 hours, it's amazing how quickly you can mature. Did anybody else have a stupid story they'd like to share? Yes, Gabby, nice and loud so we can all hear.
I slit my thumb open, from the knuckle up.
Ooh.
With a knife, and it's because I picked it up by the blade.
Never pick up knives by the blade.
I was
I'm just letting you know that. I got a scar on my hand and a deadly fear of knives. Because as a child I did something really stupid. Okay, your story.
Okay, so I fell asleep in the car, and then my mom.
That's not that. We still all do that, even when I'm driving. Go ahead. No, that's like the story. I love. Not to interrupt you. That's one of my favorite jokes. When I'm old, I want to die in my sleep just like my uncle, not screaming like the rest of the people in his car. But when we're kids, we think of like a kid, and we do stuff like a kid. But when we grow up, we start to mature, and we get, hopefully, more mature ideas and ways to live. So we act differently. We act more grown up. We make wiser decisions. So when we look at this, we want to talk about things that are childlike and things that are childish. There's a difference between being childlike and being childish. Would everybody agree that you can act childlike but not be childish? Let's look at the list here that we have. Childlike versus childish. When we look down the list, we can see that kids, a lot of times, kids are really inquisitive. There's nothing better than how do you do that, and why that happen? Who made the moon? How come it does this? Yeah, how many people have ever heard like a little kid asking a bunch of crazy questions like, how did that happen? How did that happen? Then we have the childish side. Childish, I'm not talking about like necessarily being a little kid. I'm talking about acting childish, where somebody gets to be ignorant. Don't tell me. Like, I'm sure that in these situations, like, don't tell me that I can't fit in that swing. I know I can fit in that swing.
Yeah.
Guess what? I can't fit in that. I can't get out of the swing. So there are things that we don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. How many people have ever been told, don't do this because something will happen, and then you wound up ignoring that? How many people have ignored answers? Yeah, most of us. Somebody goes like, "You're doing what's this like? Both hands up in the air, and you're kicking." My goodness, that is like somebody who's like really, really have been like that. So we see the difference. Yes, just like the baby. You. So we're seeing the difference between somebody asking questions just because you're a kid and curious to somebody who's ignorant. Don't tell me the answers. Now, if we look, you see this amazed and in awe. Okay? Have you ever seen a kid look at something and go, that kid's like really amazing. Like they're just staring at this. Like somebody said something? At the aquarium. Where like this, you could see this kid just like looking at the fish going by. Wow. How many people have ever either seen a kid or have been that kid where you looked at something with those big eyes of wonder? Yeah. Most of us have all done that where we're looking at something and we're like, wow, this is amazing. This is like really cool. We still have that. Even me, I get that childish thing of like, wow, that is really amazing. Childlike type of thing where I'm saying that is really amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, we can also be childish where we're not impressed. How many people have you ever like, somebody goes, oh, look at this, and you're like, whatever. How many people have ever been like that? How many people have acted like that? Somebody's going, isn't that really cool? And you're like, yeah, not really. And you're like that, and you're like, you act that, you come across, not only are you just going, oh, that's really cool for you, but you actually get to be really rude about it, and you act very unimpressed. You almost have to act like you really don't like something. How many people have ever done that themselves? We're like, you know what? I'm going to make them feel stupid. They look impressed. I'm not impressed. Been there, done that. So you got that. You have that kind of thing. That's very childish when you act like that. It's a very childish type of thing. When we look at being childlike, children are very trusting. That's why parents have to keep good eyes on their kids because they have to be. keeping an eye out because their kid will trust anything. Kids will trust anybody. A kid will be at the edge of a curb and trust that he'll make it across the street without looking for cars because, those cars will stop for me. They'll see a little kid in the street. Of course they'll stop. Then you see on the news that a child's been hit. You also see where a child will go out wandering around and it'll get lost. Or, unfortunately, there have been times where children have been picked up by strangers. We hear about this a lot in the news where like a kid's gotten lost and all of a sudden they have somebody trusting come, or they think that they can trust. The old scenario that they use a lot of times is like some guy pulls up in a van and says, will you help me find my puppies? Or I have candy in the van. If you'd like to get in the van with me, I can give you some of my candy. Or, oh, your parents told me I should bring you home. And that child becomes trusting. And they wind up doing something and getting involved in something and getting harmed or worse. So that's what we see. Kids can be very trusting, but that's also a good thing because you can learn to trust. And when you trust in something that is wholesome, something that is true, something that is good, that is a good thing to have trust in. So you want to find out, like for instance, you want to be able to trust authority. You want to be able, like if you're lost and you're a kid, you want to be able to go to the police station and trust that that's going to be a safe place that'll help get you home. You want to be able to trust your babysitter, that the babysitter is going to be taking care of you while your parents are away. So you have that kind of thing. Yeah, the flip side of being childish, where you're skeptical. It's almost like unimpressed, but it's a little bit different because now you're questioning like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That might not be so sure. That might not be good. I don't think I will like that. How many people have ever been presented with something and you just were very, like, I don't think I'll like that. A lot of times this will happen with food. Have you ever been presented some food and you were like, without even tasting it, you just said, I'm not going to like it. Again, hands are going up all over the place here. Yeah, because it happens. Somebody puts some food in front of you, and then you're like, no, I'm not going to ever like this. And so that's what happens. Now, how many people on the same thing, when that was presented to them, actually tried it and realized, you know what, I actually do like this. And sometimes it becomes your favorite food, So, yeah. So we get to be very skeptical about certain things, and we don't get to be very trusting. And a lot of times that flows over even to our own spiritual talk, our spiritual walk. Now, how many times have you heard this or have said this? You might hear this. I'll go to the park and I'll either take my grandkids there. I used to take my kids there, and you'd always hear this. Look at me, Dad. Look at me, Daddy. How many have ever heard that or said that? How many said, Dad, look at me. Look what I can do. Look at what I can do. I can stand on top of this sliding board. Look at this. I fell backwards down the steps. Dad, look at me. Help me, Dad. Help me. Or help me, Dad. I'm stuck in a swing. Look at me. I fit in here good. So we all have said that. We're like, look at me. I want you to notice me. I want you to see me. And that is very childlike because kids want to be seen, especially by their parents. We see that. Or they might want to be seen, hey, teacher, look at me, I'm doing this. Or, hey, look at how good I did on this test. Look at how good I did, even for me now. Look at how good I did at work, for my job. Everybody wants to see that. Hey, look at this. Or you have the flip side of being childish, and you have the, wasn't me.
Oh my God.
Wasn't somebody can relate to it. As soon as I hear the comment back, it's like, how many people in this room have ever said, wasn't me, I didn't do it, wasn't me, don't look over here, nothing to see here, nothing to see. Look, I got a brother and sister pointing at each other. It's all her, it's all him. Oh goodness. So, but we have that. It was like, it wasn't me. How many people have ever heard somebody else say that to them? Say it to them. Like, no, it wasn't me. And you knew it was. You knew it was them, definitely. But they said, wasn't me. Now then, you're a liar, I'm a liar. Yeah, you get that? Because, how many people Show of hands here have ever said it themselves. It wasn't me, and you knew it was you. How many people? Go ahead. Oh, and you're like, no, I never did. Wasn't me. Wasn't me who said that. What? The question was, how many? Are you paying attention or not paying attention? Were you too busy watching, waiting for her to put both hands up and legs in the gap? That was pretty good. So how many people in this room have ever themselves said, it wasn't me?
Out of fear.
Out of fear. I'm not talking about out of fear. I'm talking about out of lying because you're just sinful kids. Yeah, we kind of all have done that before. That wasn't me. And you know you're wrong. Like, who took that last whatever, who took that last chocolate candy bar? Wasn't me. Who took the last can of soda? Wasn't me. Who left the tube? Who left the lid off the toothpaste in the bathroom? Wasn't me. Who didn't put the roll of toilet paper on the toilet paper holder? Wasn't me. So, we see that happens. We see one thing because we want, guys, relax, bring it back down. We want to see, sometimes there are times when we want attention, and then there are other times we push that attention away. And that's childish. Now we look at this. I did this for you. If you look at the line underneath it, it says, because I love you. We did something for somebody because we love you. Thank you. I want to do this for you. I want to make this for you. As little kids, if we're talking about little kids, how many people have ever picked a flower, which was a weed, just so you know, it was a weed outside, and you took that flower and you gave it to somebody and said, I picked this flower for you, and your mom or dad goes, thanks. I'm unimpressed. No, they pick it and they're holding it and they're looking at it going, wow, why did you give it to them? Because you love them. How many people have ever sat in any sort of a craft thing as a little kid and made that macaroni necklace and you knew your mom was always going to wear that for the rest of her life? And that when she went to your wedding, she's going to have that macaroni necklace on because, such memories. And you painted it with these weird colors that once you get any water near it, it gets on your skin.
My mom has told me flat out, stuff that I've given her when I was little, she's told me flat out that she thought it was ugly and she didn't like it.
Now that is ignorant. No, on this line is ignorant. Actually, it's very... No. But how many people have ever made something because you love somebody? I colored this picture. My granddaughter the other day gives me a picture, and she can barely write her name, so she writes her name on the piece of paper, and she traces her hand. And she gives that to me, and she says, here, Grandpa, and you're like, yeah, Grandpa, that's what they call me, Grandpa Hample, because it rhymes. Okay, you got that. That's good. So she hands me this paper, and she says, this is for me because I love you. And I took that piece of paper and I said, what's neat about this, Zoe, is even when you're not with me and I have this piece of paper, I can take my hand and put it on your hand and act like I'm walking with you.
You're the best grandpa ever.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I am glad I amazed you. But it's one of those things where, she did that because she loved me. Now the flip side is this. Okay? You do this for me. How many people have ever been that person? Oh yeah, hand went right up. You have all these hands going, oh yeah. I love the honesty here, which is great. So you do this for me because I love me. And what it is it's an expectation. Your childish expectation is you will do this for me because I expect it because I love me more than you. So what happens to the little child who used to make those necklaces or give you the flower has now grown into a person, and it could be no different than teenagers, college age, even adults, who just goes, no, you will do this for me because I think I'm more important than you. Here we go. I'm going to read through this. This is Matthew 18, 1 through 6. Okay, it's a little crowded in there, but I'm going to read this to you. Okay? At the time the disciples came to Jesus. Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And then Jesus called a little child to him. Come here. Set him in the midst of them. Here, stand here. And said, assuredly I say to you, unless you change and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone, big heavy rock, be hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea. It would be better if you were dead than to offend a child of God. Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff. That's a lot of dead people, yeah. Well, now if we look at this, I blew up the font on, unless you change and become as little children. Now the thing is I don't want you to be childish, I want you to be childlike. And what it is when we have that, if we go back to that list where we're talking about trusting, if it's actually, if we're thinking about being trusting, and we're talking about God, it'd be like, God, look at me. I love you so much. I want to give my life to you. What you do for me, God, leaves me amazed and in awe. So if you take all that stuff that we saw on the childlike side, and we apply that to our walk as Christians, and we become very childlike, which is what this passage is saying, become like a child, we can see how that fits in. It's not the same as being childish. That's why I'm separating the two. Because we don't want to sit there and go, God, you don't impress me at all. God, it was... Who in the Bible were the first people that would have said, wasn't me, wasn't me? Who would that have been? Anybody? Who? Adam and Eve. Very good. Adam and Eve were the first people who learned that line. It was like, wasn't me. Who was the first to say, well, wasn't me? Adam's going, it was the woman. And Eve goes, oh, no, it was a snake. And so it wasn't me. So we see how they were acting very childish even in the Garden of Eden. So we're seeing the difference between being childlike and childish. We go to the next. Proverbs 20:11 says this, even a child is known by his actions, whether what he does is pure and right. When we look at that verse, we see this. When you look at certain kids, and a lot of times adults are really good about this, they look at certain kids and go, that's a good kid. That's a good kid. We see their actions. How many people, you might even be able to do that. How many people can go, yeah, I can tell the difference. That's a good kid. Whether I like them or not, I got to admit, that's a good kid. And we see that based on their actions, based on what they do, how they act, how they talk to people, how they treat other people. That is what we're talking about here. A child is known. Now, the opposite is also true, that they would be known by not being good. There are certain kids that you just go like, oh yeah, he's just not a good kid that you should hang with. You shouldn't do that. That's not a good kid. That's a bad one. Here's a kid. Now, I don't know if your parents have ever put you in this situation. Have your parents ever said, you shouldn't hang with this kid. This kid would be better for you to hang with. Has anybody ever had a parent say, these would be better kids for you to hang with? Yeah. And then they go like, these are not good kids to hang with. And hopefully you're listening enough to your parents and trusting of your parents that you go like, you know what? I'm looking at what my parents are saying. And they're doing this for my good because I am acting childish and they're helping me. They're helping me to grow. So that's what we're seeing is like sometimes a parent, and as you grow up, even now as you're maturing in your age now, you should be able to start to discern how many people, and this is where the struggle comes in, how many people now, even at your own age, you're going into selecting your friends and you're having a hard time because you know that this kid probably isn't the best choice for you and that this other kid is a better choice. And then you start going, but this kid's pretty cool. This kid looks like he's got a lot of, that kid over here, he looks kind of goofy. He's too good. Have you ever not wanted to be a friend with somebody because they came across as being too good? I don't want to be their friend. They're too good. Or that guy's really bad. So I think that would be cool to hang with him. So as you're growing up, you're starting to be confronting those situations. So listen to your family, listen to your parents, listen to other people. To help. Hopefully they'll talk you through, if you have good friends, it'll talk you through wise choices and what friends to choose. Choose the good friends. We've talked about this in weeks past. Those of you who are new here, you missed the lesson. But we talked in weeks past about finding people that will build us up to encourage us and not bring us down. So we want to look for that type of thing. Marvelous. What marvelous love the Father has extended to us. Just look at it. We are called children of God. That's who we really are. 1 John 3:1. We see in the Bible that it says God loves us with a marvelous love. He just loves us so much. He loves us so much that he sent his son, Jesus, to die on the cross. We see that in John 3:16. What kind of love? That's an amazing love. Bible also says that no greater love hath any man than to lay down his life for a friend. And that is what Jesus did for us. So we're seeing God's love, Christ's love shown through us. And again, we've talked about in weeks past the Holy Spirit. As Christians, we have the Holy Spirit in us. Hopefully that Holy Spirit is spurring us on to love other people. So, milk versus meat.
Oh, meat wins.
Milk versus meat. We're going to go over another comparison chart here. Okay? I like my scientific images there of bones and muscle. Okay? You're like, that guy doesn't know his science. He's not Bill Nye the Science Guy. Oh, now we got a bunch of haters. Bunch of haters. We don't like Bill Nye. Okay, so let's get back to this one. Milk versus meat. Boy, if Bill Nye was in here, it'd be like being hit over the head with like those Nerf noodles or something, you know? Come on. All right. Back to the lesson. Milk versus meat. As we see in here, milk is liquid, and I don't need this like, oh, well, we could concentrate it into powder. No. We're just going to go with this. We just keep it simple. Milk, it's liquid. It flows, and it helps build bones. So we have a framework and support. That's just some science there. It's not much science, but it is some science. Now we look over here at meat, and we're seeing that it's more solid. It's chewy. It builds muscles. There's motion and action. And if we look down here, both are needed. They complement each other. However, framework is critical to permit action. However, too much of one or the other isn't good for a healthy, balanced body. That's all my science lesson for today. Let's apply it spiritually. Thank you. I didn't know I was getting applauded for my... Thank you. So, that's my... Steve Hempel, science guy. Okay, back again. So, when we look at this, we're seeing this, guys. Could you imagine what would muscle look like if it was not supported by bone? What would it be?
A bag of nasty.
A bag of nasty. Oh, yeah. It'd be just like... There's actually, when I was looking for images, they showed an image of muscle without bone. And it was just a big pile of meat, basically. It's a pile of meat. So, I mean... Think about when you're at a butcher's, if you see a butcher and they're hacking the meat off a bone, or you get I have never seen in real life at a farm a boneless chicken running around. They just don't have them, They just don't have real bone. You're like, oh, can we breed boneless chickens? No, you can't. You can't do that. But both of them are needed. You have to have both. Guys, pay attention here. Pay attention. When we're looking at milk is some of the very basic that we have as children, as infants. As infants, you see them, you have a mother who will nurse their baby on milk. They grow up, you have milk. You continue having milk. Why? Because it builds, the calcium, it builds your bones, it builds all these things that have a healthy support and structure. So it is critical. However, as critical as that is, you still can't move. It's just bones. It's just like a pile of sticks. If it was just a drop on you need to have the muscle The muscle is what causes the motion and the action. So we have to have both. You have to have both. But the first thing you need to do is get the bones, firmer, harder, stronger. And as you get older, when you hear about babies' bones, when babies are born, their bones are actually very soft and very brittle. So as they're drinking and having more more milk, as they're having more milk, their bones are getting stronger. And as their actions happen, as they move around and sort of exercise, you see a baby who's like laying in a bed, just, kicking itself. That's exercising. It's exercising. So that child is exercising. And as it builds the muscle and the bones are building, eventually that baby's going to be able to crawl, walk, support itself, until we get to the point where we have, like everybody in this room, is able to stand and walk. Maybe not Gabby as well as others because of her knee, but both knees. Oh, what a whiner. Oh, my gosh. Oh, can I vote on this? Is Gabby a whiner today?
Yeah.
Everybody with a show of hands. Even Gabby vote. No, but Gabby, you have to get stronger. True? See? So we have to work on, so Gabby has to work on her knees. And that's critical because of what she does with band. So everything falls hand in hand. It's the same thing in our Christian walk. We need to have the milk of the Word, the simple stuff, and be able to work into the meat. As we went through the basic series, which was a lot of milk stuff and a little bit of meat. A little bit of ground meat, I would say. It wasn't really tough meat. A little bit of, meat, but a lot of milk information to you to help build that basic structure that we need for your Christian walk, your Christian faith. So we see that both are needed. So we look here, as newborn babes, desire the pure milk of the Word of God, that you may grow thereby, if indeed you have tasted that the Lord is gracious. We see that it's important for us as Christians to have milk. That builds our Christian foundation. That helps build us in the basic way. It starts to build our bodies so that we're ready to take on the harder stuff, which is the meat. We see in Hebrews 5, verses 12 through 14, For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone, me, to teach you, again, the first principles of the oracles of God. You need somebody to teach you the basics, so you get a teacher that's going to teach you the basic stuff. Yep. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. There are some people, when we have the basic class, one of the reasons we had it was so that you could build on the basics, because a lot of you needed it. If I was to ask a lot of the questions pertaining to those topics, a lot of you would go like, I don't know. I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I believe that. So we had those basic things going on. So we had to give you that milk, not the solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. Babies need milk, but as you're growing older, you need more than milk. And what this is saying is, I gave you milk as a baby, but you should be getting meat. You should be getting more. That is what my class is for, to give a little bit more of a meat. When you are in the children's Sunday school, you should be getting a lot of milk. You should be getting fed milk, just like a baby who's just born who needs milk. You should be getting that in Sunday school. And slowly work yourself up into getting more meat. For instance, if you were to go over to the church service in the sanctuary, that should be feeding you meat. A church service should be feeding you meat. Again, we talked about teaching you in here to send you out into the world, to teach for you to do outreach. For anyone who partakes of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he's a babe. But solid food belongs to those who are of full age, grown up, that is, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. As you get stronger, as you're a baby, you need to be taught what is good and evil. As you get stronger, you have that discernment building up in you, and that's where you start to get the meat of the word. So, are you childlike or childish? Are you living on both the meat, or milk, and the meat of the word? Where are you at in your walk? Are you having a little bit of both? Are you having milk because you need some basics? Or are you starting to dive into the Word of God a little bit more? As you guys are growing up, and this class is geared more to start giving you more solid foods. We're preparing you. This group here is being prepared to go into the church service. So we have Sunday school for the little kids, giving you some milk and basics and some of that fundamental stuff, bringing you into here, giving you a little bit more solid stuff. Like I said, I'm giving you some ground meat. I like to give you some ground meat, maybe some, oatmeal instead of just, how like babies work their way up in their food. That's what we're doing, and this is the transitional stage. That's why, like, when you come in here, it's not going to be all like the kiddie games, and, you're not going to have all the crazy stuff that might go in there. We will have some fun because it's transitioning over. We're still going to have some fun. There's still some fun. There's fun actually in the church service. But what we're doing is we're going from maybe a lot of fun and a little bit of teaching to a little fun and more teaching. And that's what's critical. That's a difference. That's what, as you guys are growing up. Each one of you in here is growing up. And again, my job is to teach you, ground you, and get you more into the Word. So we ask the question again. So, are you childlike or childish? Are you living on both the milk and meat of the Word? That's a question for this week. So as you walk out of here throughout the week, think about it. Go like, yeah, I'm acting really childish about life. Or I'm actually acting childish about my faith. I should grow up. I should learn more. There's probably not one person in this room, myself included, that says, I have enough Bible study. I really don't need to know the Bible more. I need to know the Bible more. I'm up here teaching and I still need to know the Bible more. So my desire is I should be more childlike, get more into God's Word. I still need the milk of the Word. I need the ground meat of the Word, but I also need the meat of the Word. If I don't know the meat of the Word, if I don't sit there and have a big slab of beef, I can't make ground meat. Does that make sense to you? I can't do that. So what I got to do is I have to know my beef before I can give you the ground meat. And I've got to know what kind of milk to give you guys. What's going to feed you the best. So that is my job. It's my job to transition you. You guys who have been here for the first time, you have just sat through the first class of your transition. And I don't know what you came from, and hopefully you've had a good time today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit of stuff. And hopefully you'll be able to carry this on.